in an urban city like Toronto, we don't experience pitch darkness very often. If you grow up in rural places, you might get a little bit of a sense of that. A dark, cloudy night when all the lights are on. But this week, some of us did experience that pitch darkness, where the street lights weren't lit. There was no lights in houses and apartment buildings, and you looked around and you could barely see anything beyond your front step. We got a sense of what darkness really can look like. And that darkness happened right around our Christmas season this year. It caused our church not to be able to have Christmas services here with no hydro and no heat. And when I left the hospital for an hour to try and get to midnight mass, I drove over to one of our neighboring churches. And I was actually a little scared to drive on the road because there were no lights anywhere to shine the way. Darkness can overcome us, and it can be scary. And I think it gave us a little bit of a sense of what Christmas looked like in the first century. What Christmas looked like without lampposts and with only candles. I was reading an article in the Toronto Star this week about someone who said that Christmas was just ruined by the ice storm. May as well not have had it at all. I've heard a couple of people from different churches whose services got canceled. What an epic tragedy it was. But the ice storm happened at this time of year. And you know, I can see how you can get there. I can see how it's disappointing. We want that Christmas that gives us that feel-good moment, right? The kind of Christmas that we're used to, when we gather with friends and family in front of the fireplace, when we come to church the way we want it to look, where it's warm, toasty, and we feel love. But I think that first Christmas didn't really look like that. It didn't really look all that warm and cozy. As Mary and Joseph traveled from Nazareth to Bethlehem, I don't think I ever truly had a grasp until this year what that might look like. Putting your 8-month pregnant wife on a donkey and traveling quite a long way. That is one heck of a truth, right? I don't think she would have been very pleased with me. You get to where you're going, and it is dark. There is no light, and no one will give you a place to stay. Darkness begins to overcome you. That sense of epic loss is around you. The only place you can find is an inn. They won't let you in the inn, but they tell you to go to the stable. Where all the animals are. Where there's straw, there's a manger. It's not all that comfortable. When we picture that image, we think of the Christmas pageant with 6- and 7-year-old shepherds and angels. It's very cute. But I promise you it wasn't cute. It's hard. And I can only imagine what it would have felt like for Joseph. I spent 2 days with my wife as she was in labor. And I won't even pretend to know what she went through. But standing with her, I can't imagine being in a place where everything was rough, where everything was cold, where there was no one to help, where they were alone. That feel-good, warm and fuzzy isn't there. There was chaos and darkness when Jesus was born. There was chaos and darkness this week. And so, although we had things turned upside down in the city of Toronto this week, although the ice storm brought us to a place that we didn't want to go, although people were displaced, people didn't know where they were supposed to be, things didn't look like the way we want them to look or the way we feel they should. We got a different kind of experience this year. We got a small glimpse into what Christmas really looks like. when we have darkness and chaos and light shines. It is when there is darkness and chaos and Jesus shows up. Christmas, real Christmas, for me this year, looked like the knowledge of hundreds of people who continued to call and send messages and tell me that we were prayed for. That God was with us in the turmoil that we were going through. Real Christmas looks like parishioners who called me amidst this week knowing that I was in my own chaos and said, who can we call in the parish? Who's alone? Which elderly parishioners do we have that need to be cared for? That's what Christmas looks like. Christmas looks like churches that kept their feet in hydro, that opened up as warming centers. Like Church of Redeemer in St. Paul's Moore Street, that invited anyone who wanted to come in and be warm, to have some light, to come and be there with them. And you know, although it was disappointing that we didn't gather in this building for Christmas this year, Christmas looks like Christians who get together, not because they know each other, not because they have a building in common, but Christians who gather because they all belonged to Christ. Christians from this place who went to St. Clement's and joined with them. Christians who went to Christ Church Deer Park that is still open. Christians that gathered knowing that we are not one congregation, but we belong to a larger body. That the incarnation, Jesus coming among us, Jesus' birth changed everything. That through that, we came to belong to our God. As the gospel says, because of that, we became children of God. That it didn't matter that we didn't gather here. That Christmas is wherever we gather to proclaim Jesus' name. It is where 2 or 3 are with one another and say that He is Lord. Darkness can overcome us. We get a sense of that this week. But light shone in the darkness on that first Christmas night. Light shone in the darkness this week. And no matter how hard the darkness tried then or the darkness tries now, the light of Jesus Christ overcame that darkness. And it dispelled